Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This week I want to talk to you guys about how to discuss rhyme scheme when you're analyzing poetry. So this video will also be turned into a 1-minute version that will go on my TikTok account. So if you're not following me there yet, go ahead and follow me now. The link will be in the description of this video. So talking about rhyme scheme is something I really don't see a lot of people do all the time, and I think that it's this really great way to look at the analysis of a poem and also to see it in a different way. And I feel like because it's not talked about a lot, it's kind of impressive to professors to see somebody talk about that aspect of a poem when you're doing an analysis. So I wanted to talk about some tips I have from my experience with talking about rhyme scheme and poetry and important things to kind of look at, especially as you're new to discussing that aspect. There are certain things you can look at that can make it easier to kind of get your brain into the mindset of thinking about rhyme scheme. So one of the really important things to do when you're talking about rhyme scheme is when you look at the poem, note any changes in the rhyme scheme. If your rhyme scheme is changing throughout the poem, that's going to indicate something. And even if it wasn't meant to, you can probably make it indicate something. So let's say you're reading a poem and it's about somebody coming to terms with the death of a loved one. And, the poem starts where the person is still alive. And by the end of the poem, the person has died and it's hit the speaker of the poem. If you've got a rhyme scheme that changes at some point in the poem, and that change occurs where the death happens of that person, that's important. And you can talk about reasons why that change may have occurred. Let's say throughout the poem, it's A, B, A, B rhyme scheme throughout. And then you get to the death of the person and the rhyme scheme changes from that point on. And suddenly the rhyme scheme is A, B, B, C. Or it's A, B, B. Or it's A, B, C, B. Who knows? It could be anything different. But you can talk about how this person's death has shaken the reader. They can't get back to that normalcy of the A, B consistency. That's one way to talk about it. But any changes, look at what's happening in the poem surrounding it. Look at the things that could indicate why a change would occur. Does it go from a lack of rhyme scheme to a rhyme scheme? Does it go from a inconsistent rhyme scheme to a consistent rhyme scheme? Any of those changes can indicate something deeper in the piece and the themes of the piece. The other thing I would look at is whether there is a consistent rhyme scheme. Consistent rhyme schemes often indicate this sense of normalcy. So an A, B, there's a rhythm to that, and it's very just boom, 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 boom. Even though that's not literally a rhythm to it, that goes, but the sound of that consistent rhythm, the sound of that consistent rhyme means something and has that sense of normalcy. Let's say there isn't a consistent rhyme scheme. It doesn't have that A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, or C, D, C, D, C, D, C, D, whatever. That also can tell you something about the piece. And when you notice these differences, take a look at what the poem is also showing you and telling you that may not necessarily directly relate to the rhyme scheme. You can see how the rhyme scheme can tie into that, even if it isn't immediately directly obvious. So, if the poem is discussing a difficult or hard topic and there's an inconsistent rhyme scheme, that could indicate that it's difficult to talk about. Or let's say it's a poem about a difficult topic and there is a consistent rhyme scheme. You could argue that the poet is trying to force normalcy into a situation they are uncomfortable about. So things like that, you can really find ways to pull that all together. And yes, there are times where rhyme scheme is determined by your form. but you can still talk about it. Listen, there are so many things that we talk about in literature and literary analysis that it's just the choice that the writer made. But by analyzing it, we're peeling back this onion of it, and we're seeing all of the things that pull it together. And so, you know what? I don't actually know what the poet was trying to do, but I can say that I see this point, and it leads me to a further understanding of the poem, and here's my support for why that could be happening and how I see that happening. And you know what? Humans do things unconsciously. We don't always recognize the things we're doing and why. So looking at the rhyme scheme can be a really interesting way to pull together what's happening in the poem. Another thing you can talk about is how the rhyme scheme impacts the sound of the poem and the rhythm of the poem, because rhyme does create that rhythm. I was talking about it a little bit earlier. There's that A, B, A, B, A, B, or that A, B, B, A, B, B, A, you know, or A, B, B, A, B, B. All of those kinds of things, they pull together this sound, and that can impact the flow of the poem and how it feels and how it gets to the reader, the delivery to the reader. And if you can connect that to what the poem is trying to articulate and the themes of the poem and what's physically happening in the poem, then you can really tie it together in such a nice way that is pretty unique to what a lot of people tend to talk about in a poetry analysis. So that's what I've got today. If you've got any other questions on this topic, please leave them in the comment section. I would love to talk about this more. If you have any other topics you'd like to see me do videos on, also please let me know. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!